Why Sonic Force is so bad, but this is so good. Alright, guys. Can we just explain to me why Sonic Forces is so bad, but inside of it is Episode Shadow, which is somehow shorter, darker, cooler, and objectively more fun? So today we're answering the real question. How did Sega accidentally make the best part of Sonic Forces and then ignore it? Okay, what's up, gamers, hedgehog enthusiasts, and people who only clicked because Shadow was in the thumbnail? Today we're breaking down what episode Shadow even is, and why it's low-key fire, and why it also absolutely fumbles the bag. Today we're talking about the pros, cons, and the mild emotional damage included. And yes, this video will contain spoilers, but let's be honest, you already forgot the plot. So before we even get into anything, what even is Episode Shadow? Episode Shadow is a free DLC prequel to Sonic Forces, where you play as Shadow the Hedgehog before the main game, and immediately Sega does something wild. Alright, they say, what if the game was good? You get 3 main stages, 1 boss, and Infinite's edgy Tumblr OC origin story, which is impressive because Sonic Forces itself feels like it was written during a lunch break. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start off with the pros. So, Shadow's gameplay actually rules. Alright, let's start off with the biggest W. Shadow feels amazing. He's basically Sonic, but with trigger controls, chaos control teleporting, and an actual stage design that says, hey, maybe try thinking. You guys see my gameplay right here. Literally, Shadow moves so well, alright? He doesn't move like a Roomba with anxiety. You can actually react, position yourself, engage with the level, which is crazy because this DLC, Sega really said, here's what the game, full game, could have been. But you guys can see right up here, like, it moves so well. The game plays out so well. So why don't they just make this the full game? Like, it makes no sense to me why, they decided to say, oh, yep, we'll make the main game, move like trash, but this game, nah, we'll lock in. And it's just like, bro, like, what's the point in making us move like shit in the original game, and then in Episode Shadow, which is a DLC, a free DLC, that's not even that long, to be honest. Only 3 episodes, and somehow it moves better than the entire game, and plays out way better than the entire game. Like, bro, what was the point in even making Episode Shadow DLC? I feel like the main game should play like the DLC. The main game basically is DLC compared to this. It's just so confusing and mind-boggling on what they did with this. Alright, so the second pro about this game is the atmosphere. Shadow is way darker, more serious, and honestly it works. Because in this game, you've got ruined cities, war imagery, Shadow questioning his past, meanwhile base Sonic Forces is like, where is happening? Anyway, customize OC time. Yeah, like, Shadow actually fits this tone. He's brooding, he's intense, he's emotionally unavailable. Like, he's such a badass in this game. Like, they made him so well, but still, this is king behavior. There's no other way to say it. He has too much aura. You cannot stop this man. But they just don't do enough. But it's so awesome. He's so cool. And it's just not enough. It's just stupid. It's stupid. Like, bro. Alright, guys, so my third pro is Infinite. Well, kind of. Okay, Infinite is still a hot topic receipt come to life, but Episode Shadow makes him slightly interesting. See, in this game, we see his rivalry with Shadow, like how he absolutely is sought after to go after Shadow, his insecurity, like how man really is just feeling weak out here because he's a pussy. Alright, I can't even lie. But besides that, he's just so sensitive. His motivation because Shadow absolutely beat his ass. And for 5 minutes, he's intimidating. For once, he's actually intimidating. 5 whole minutes. That's a new Sonic record. Like in the actual game, he's just so like annoying, and he's kind of cool, but in the actual game, he's just not enough. He's not enough. He he's just a villain. That's all I see him as in the game. He's literally just a villain. Like there's nothing else you can really say besides that. Alright guys, quick pause. Comment below if Shadow is the best part of Sonic Forces. Yes or absolutely yes. I'm watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you made it this far and like the video. Alright, so now we gotta go on the cons. Alright, the first con is that it is way too short. Now, it's time for the bad stuff. Episode Shadow is criminally short. You blink and it's over. Like, 3 stages. Barely even one boss. Credits, and Sega said, here's peak gameplay. Can we have more? No. This really should have been a full campaign. Or at least, maybe 6 to 8 stages. Instead, it feels like a demo for a game that didn't even exist. Like, are we serious, Sega? You could have extended it so much longer and chose not to. It just is stupid. You could have made it way better if you made it longer. Like 3 episodes? Are we serious? Or episodes? Like, Sega, we gotta do something about this. You guys should have made it way longer. Like I said earlier, Generations is at least a couple hours long of gameplay, and after that you have the missions and stuff. Like, are we serious? Alright guys, so my second main con is the missed story potential. Shadow's story has so much potential we could have explored. His past trauma, like how he sees Maria and all that stuff that they showed in Generations. His relationship with Sonic. Because, let me remind you, he wasn't even in the game. Like, he wasn't even in the episode Shadow, besides the last fight scene. Alright. His role in the war, because besides that, he didn't do anything in the war. And then what we get instead is Infinite Man, Shadow fights, end. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it's short, but it was good. It's not bad, but it really could have been great if they did something with it. Alright guys, my final con is that it makes base forces look worse. This is the funniest, saddest part. Episode Shadow doesn't just stand alone. It actively exposes how the rest of Sonic Forces is. You play it and think, why doesn't Sonic control like this? Why aren't the levels like this? Why wasn't this the game? Why wasn't this the game? Congratulations, you're now disappointed twice. Like, are we serious, Sega? You could have done so much more. Like, why? Why do you make the DLC better than the actual game? It just doesn't add up. It does not make sense. It's just so dumb. Like, please, Sega, lock in. Like, are you kidding me? We could have had maybe Sonic interact with Shadow. Maybe, like, and that could have added on to the story. This could have been the start of the game instead of Green Hill Zone's looking a lot more like Sand Hill Zone. Like, are we serious? We could have done that where they interacted, or like before the fight. It could have been like that, anyways. But we could have had that where maybe Shadow helps Shadow, or Shadow helps Sonic fight Infinite and his monsters, and then be like, is that me? Alright, to kind of end it off, the final verdict. The episode Shadow is the best gameplay in Sonic Forces, the best tone in Sonic Forces, and the biggest missed opportunity in Sonic Forces. It proves Sega knew what fans wanted, and they didn't commit, which honestly describes the Sonic franchise in one sentence. Like, are you kidding me? This was the greatest, shortest piece of Sonic media I've ever experienced. Of all my, as much as I love Sonic Forces as a game, because I played it growing up, Episode Shadow honestly was better than the actual game. It's insane. Like, Sega was cooking. And then they were just like, oh yeah, here's Sonic Forces for you. Here's your cool ass character. I mean, the OC character is cool because, that's my profile picture now, but you get what I'm saying. But in my opinion, I just feel like Episode Shadow lacks so much potential. It had so much good going for it, and the fact that Sega just didn't take the shot on it is so mind-boggling. Because if you look at Generations, Sonic X Shadow Generations, that's a whole game. And it shows you the entire origin of Shadow. And Sonic Forces just is like, oh yeah, here's Shadow. Whatever you want, free DLC, make you play the game. And it's like, bro, are we serious? Sonic X Shadow Generations literally brought a whole nother game inside of Sonic Generations if you played that too. But, the Shadow Generations, it had so many levels. Well, I didn't have a lot of levels, but it still had a decent amount of levels. And it also included, cutscenes and storylines and all that stuff. And also, if you even look in the case, it shows like a manual, if I'm popping that up on screen. Sonic X Shadow Generations did more than Sonic Forces could ever do. They even had cool powers, cool origin story. It also ties into the story like Sonic Forces, but it ties in like midway, which is cool. Like the Sonic boss fight was awesome. Or the cutscene, which was awesome, in my opinion. If Episode Shadow would have been the full game, Sonic would have been remembered way differently. What do you guys think? Is Episode Shadow underrated, overhyped, or proof Shadow would have been the main character? Drop a comment. Chaos Control!